Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairwoman Garrett.
Here.
Vice Chairman Scholl.
Present.
Member Bettenker.
Here.
Member Connors.
Present.
Member DeSimone.
Present.
Member Jack Cody. Member Johnson. Executive Director Robert Raposa.
Present.
Legal Counsel Ray McCarthy.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. First item on today's agenda. The board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting of September 5th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Vice Chair Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote of the board. Item number 2, the board may vote to certify the September 5th, 2023 primary election results for the United States 1st Congressional District, General Assembly Senate District 1, and Forster Town Council. Do we have a motion from the board to approve, to certify?
I'll move to certify, Madam Chair.
Second.
Mr. DeSimone moves to certify, seconded by Mr. Connors. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item passes unanimously. Item number 3, the board may discuss and vote upon the subpoena process relating to the signature collectors for the nomination papers submitted on behalf of the United States 1st Congressional District candidate Sabina Matos. Who would like to address this item on the agenda?
Madam Chair, I think there's actually some update. Oh, well, I'll ask. Is there any update from the Attorney General's office at this point?
The investigation is still ongoing and they have no information to release at this time
And we got the official word, Mr. Raposa, from them.
from the Assistant Attorney General yesterday.
Okay. Any other comments wish to be made at this point? Mr. DeSimone, did you
So-
wish to speak?
I mean, I would like to continue the investigation. I think it's important. I think we need to still review those signatories on the accounts. I think we need to hear from the people who collected the signatures. So I would move to schedule this going forward. I know the election's over, but I don't think the issue is over.
Okay, Mr. DeSimone has made a motion. Do we have a second to his motion? Looks like there's no second to your motion,
That's fine.
Mr. DeSimone. Any other action the board wishes to take at this time?
So I know I was the person who made a motion last time to continue with this, and I think that I agree with Mr. DeSimone about the issue is still ongoing and it's being investigated. I think, and I know we received a letter from the ACLU about it, and I think, at least I myself think that some of the points were really well taken, of the damage that it could do, not to the candidate, but to the individuals. And so for that, I would move that we do not go forward with the subpoena process, but happy to see if there's a middle in between both of our.
Do we have a motion not to pursue this matter? Do we have a second to Ms. Bettenker's motion? No second to the motion. At this point, I would like to say that, I wasn't at the meeting when this action was taken by the board. And frankly, I would not have been in favor of the action at that time. And I really don't believe that this needs to proceed. However, I will listen to what the board wishes to do.
If I may, Madam Chair, I
Mr.
feel
Connors?
that this board has done its due diligence, like I said at that last meeting. We've reviewed the matter. I would hate to cast aspersion on signature collectors that acted in good faith and did nothing wrong. And I trust the matter with the Attorney General's office for the criminal side of it.
Do you wish to take an action at this time?
I don't.
Okay. Mr. Scholes, you're the only one we haven't heard from, so.
Oh, yes. Well, I think the Attorney General's is investigating this matter, and I think we ought to leave it in his hands, see what develops. I think at any time we can come back and revisit this. So therefore, if we don't take any action, we can leave it the status quo and revisit it at a later date.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may, the other thing I would like my colleagues on the board to consider, and obviously I don't expect to be considered today, but, potentially in our legislative package to address the issue of signature collection. The number of signatures, coupled with how those signatures are collected. I've been involved in elections for a long time, and I think they've been problematic for a long time. This board's had hearings going back 25 or 30 years with regard to signature collections. I don't agree with the position of the ACLU that it will chill signature collectors or cause an undue burden. I think it's a serious process. I think we need to take it more seriously as a board than we have in the past. I think it's a situation where there is a trust to the electorate given to someone who collects nomination papers. If that's a qualification of nomination, simply to say, well, they acted in good faith, I don't think is enough. There's a sworn statement on the back of the signature papers. I'm well aware of it. And I'm also well aware of the fact that 90% of the people who sign it don't take it seriously. The collection process is, we had an individual come before us and say, I collected all the signatures. And then I believe one of the board members questioned him on the signature, and he said, oh, well, yeah, that one wasn't signed in front of me. So those types of things I think are significant, and I think we need to address them. And again, I don't expect to address them today, but I would hope that at some point we would have it between now and December on our agenda to take a look at.
Mr. DeSimone, would you like to refer this to the legislative committee for review at this point?
Actually, that's a good idea, Madam Chair. I would move to do that at this point.
Do we have a second to Mr. DeSimone's motion?
I would second.
Seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous vote of this board.
Can I actually make one comment? When we do have this, because I agree, I think this is something that if we don't take action, other actors may want to take action to put legislation. So I'm wondering if as part of this, we could also have Secretary of State's or the Board of Canvassers help us sort of craft something.
Absolutely, I'd be in
Certainly,
favor of that.
Certainly,
Yeah,
to include them.
Thank you.
Very good. So the vote is unanimous to refer this to the legislative committee to look at the process of signature collection. And please note that Mr. Jack Foney has joined us at 2:11.
Hello?
Okay, I think we can move forward with this agenda at this point. I think we will, given our point of view. Item number 4. The board may discuss and vote on the polling locations for the East Greenwich special referendum to be held on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. Mr. Raposo, can we hear from you?
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. The Board of Elections received a correspondence dated September 6th from the canvassing clerk, deputy town clerk from the town of East Greenwich, requesting the board approve the unanimously approved polling place by the East Greenwich Board of Canvasser for the upcoming special referendum requesting $150 million from the voters for school construction. The East Greenwich Board of Canvassers voted to combine all 5 of their precincts into one precinct and conduct the upcoming referendum to be held on Tuesday, November 7th at the Swift Community Center located at 121 Pierce Street in East Greenwich. The staff supports this request as the Swift Community Center can easily accommodate the expected turnout for this special referendum, as well as provides adequate parking. The East Greenwich Board of Canvassers will issue multiple advertisements regarding the election and polling location to ensure notification to all eligible East Greenwich voters. These advertisements will include local newspaper, weekly town notifications through email and text message, the town website, and a local internet news site. Notices will also be displayed at the 4 locations that will not be in use on November 7th directing the voters to the polling place of the Swift Community Center. The town will also hire additional poll workers and greeters as needed. Unless there are no questions from the board, the staff requests your approval of the Swift Community Center for the special upcoming referendum to be held in East Greenwich on Tuesday, November 7th.
So move.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Scholes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote. Item number 5, the board may discuss and vote on the polling locations for the North Kingstown special referendum to be held on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. Mr. Reposa, please.
The Board of Elections received a correspondence dated August 23rd from the town clerk from the town of North Kingstown requesting the board approve the unanimously approved polling places by the North Kingstown Board of Canvassers for the upcoming special referendum to be held on November 7th. There will be 2 questions on the ballot. One is for school construction and renovations for a total of $222 million. And the second question is for $25 million to create an indoor recreation center and emergency shelter. The North Kingstown Board of Canvassers voted to combine their 10 polling places into 2 locations. The first location that they selected is the Davisville Middle School located at 200 School Street. Davisville Middle School will also be combined with precinct 2302, which is Stony Lane School, 2303, which is the North Kingstown Masonic Lodge, 2306, which is Forest Park School, and finally precinct 2307, which is at the Quidnessa Elementary School. The second location is the Beechwood Senior Center located at 44 Beach Street. This is precinct 2309, and it will be combined with precinct 2304, which is at the Slocum Grange Hall, 2305, which is the North Kingstown Senior High School, 2308, which is the Wickford Middle School, and finally precinct 2310, which is the Hamilton Elementary School. North Kingstown will increase the number of poll workers in each of these polling locations to 6 supervisors, a greeter, and if needed, an assistant clerk and moderator. North Kingstown will also run advertisements ensuring that all eligible voters are aware of the polling locations that will be in operation on November 7th, as well as posting signage on the polls that will direct the voters to the correct location. Unless there are no questions from the board, the staff requests your approval for North Kingstown to use the Davisville Middle School and the Beechwood Senior Center for their special referendum to be held on Tuesday, November 7th.
So move.
Moved by Vice Chair Scholes. Do we have a second?
I will second it, but I'd like to add to the motion that there be some notification on the website as to the 2 polling places on the town website. I don't think they put that in their correspondence, so. In addition to those other notifications, I think the website
Change, Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
reflect that as well.
Okay, and Mr. Scholes agrees with that change to the motion or addition to the motion. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous vote. Thank you. Item number 6, the board may discuss and vote upon a request submitted by Melissa Jenkins calling for a referendum to approve amendments to the Bonnet Shores Fire District Charter. And I know,
Yes, Madam
They
Chair, I
need
will
to
be
step down.
recusing myself from this. My partner was involved in litigation that involved 1 or more parties that may be appearing on this matter.
so we will welcome then
That'll be
Attorney
John Anderson.
Attorney
Conference
John
counsel.
Anderson to represent the board. Would you come forward, Mr. Anderson? Thank you, Ray. So once you get settled in, sir, if you could please explain the background here and give us a little advice on
Certainly.
the action.
My name is John Anderson. I am here, as Mr. Mercaccio indicated, as conflicts counsel. When Mr. Mercaccio has a conflict, I'm the backup attorney who is brought in for these matters. What is before you is a request by Dr. Melissa Jenkins Mangilli that the Board of Elections call a referendum to consider certain amendments to the charter of the Bonnet Shores Fire District. You have a copy of Dr. Jenkins Mangilli's petition. This matter arises from a lawsuit that Dr. Jenkins Mangilli and several other persons who are residents of Bonnet Shores Fire District, Bonnet Shores in Narragansett, brought before the Superior Court challenging the voting system that was used at Bonnet Shores. The case resulted in a consent agreement. Pursuant to the consent agreement, the process of allowing voting based on ownership was determined to be unconstitutional, and the board and the parties agreed to form a charter review commission to look at their charter. They have a legislative charter that was granted by the General Assembly, and to make certain recommendations for approval by the General Assembly and then submission to the voters. The petition before you is to put those referendum changes before the voters. The problem with this petition is that the power over elections is granted by our state constitution to the General Assembly. The General Assembly gives portions of that power to the Board of Elections by way of statute. The Board of Elections does not have independent power to call elections when they have not been directed to do so by the General Assembly. In this particular case, legislation was introduced to the General Assembly, but that legislation was never adopted by the General Assembly. Thus, this board does not have the power to call an election without the approval of the General Assembly. The situation here is very analogous to a situation involving another fire district in the state, the Cumberland Fire District, which was consolidated about 10 years ago. And in that case, the General Assembly specifically enacted legislation calling on the Board of Elections to run the election, and since then has gone further to say that all of the protections in Title 17 will apply to elections of the Cumberland Fire District. There is no such legislation that has been adopted here. You have before you the written testimony of Dr. Jenkins Mangilli. She has indicated that she had a previously scheduled trip out of the country and that she could not be here. So she was invited to submit written testimony, which she did. You also have correspondence that was provided by Attorney Thomas Dickinson, who is the attorney for the Bonnet Shores Fire District. Notwithstanding the arguments that have been made by Dr. Jenkins Mangilli, you simply do not have the authority to grant this request.
I think that's pretty clear. Do any of our members have any questions of Attorney Anderson?
No, Madam Chair, I would just also refer to the fire districts. The Lincoln Fire District has done a similar consolidation 2 years ago, and in their legislation, the General Assembly set out an elective process that the district itself could engage in. So I agree with counsel, it's beyond our purview, and I would move to deny the request at this point based upon counsel's recommendation.
Do you have a second to Mr. DeSimone's motion?
Second.
seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous vote of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We appreciate your advice.
May I speak? My name is Paula Childs. I'm one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit.
It's kind of moot at this point, madam.
I'd just like to give you a petition.
It's
with
a little moot, it's a little,
160, residents who
thank
signed
you.
asking this board
Thank
to
you.
schedule an election. We're really disappointed by your action.
Thank you.
here. It's beyond
We
disappointing.
need a
We have
policeman.
been denied our right to vote, and nobody in this state government is doing a thing about it. You could have done something today, and you didn't.
Thank you, madam. Would you
Really
just leave the
disappointing.
petition, and we thank you for your comments, but they're, at this point, they're moot. Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Madam Chair, just by way of advice, they need to contact their representative and have a bill in the General Assembly and push it forward through the
I
General Assembly.
think they understand
That's
that,
what they
Mr.
need to do.
DeSimone.
Well, that's what they need to do, so it's not as if there's no redress here. There
Very
is
good.
redress.
Item number 7, the board may discuss and vote to approve the fiscal year 25 budget for the Board of Elections. Mr. Reposa?
Madam Chair, I respectfully request that we move this item to the next meeting of the board.
You have further work to do.
I have further work.
We will move this to the next agenda then. Thank you. Item number 8, the board may vote to certify the voting equipment to be used for the Coventry referendum, Cranston City Council Ward 6, and Foster Town Council special elections to be held on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Mr. Reposa. I was waiting for quiet.
Okay. I appreciate that. The logic and accuracy testing began yesterday, September 11th at 9:15 a.m. for the upcoming special elections on October 3rd to be held in Coventry, Cranston, and Foster. In your possession, you have results of these 3 communities testing that was done. Coventry, Report A indicates that at the beginning of the testing, all the voting equipment to be used had 0 votes cast. Report B displays the results of using 5 ballots per precinct on election day, mail ballots, and then for early voting. The results on the report was compared to the manual report produced. The results on both documents were consistent, and then the voting equipment was reset to 0. Report C was produced at 9:26 a.m. this morning and indicates that the voting equipment has been reset to 0. The second community, Cranston, City Council Ward 6. Report A indicates at the beginning of the testing, all the voting equipment was at 0 votes cast. Report B displays the results of using 9 ballots per precinct on election day for mail ballots and early voting. The results on the report produced from the voting equipment, again, was compared to the manual report produced. The results on both documents were consistent, and the voting equipment was subsequently reset to 0. Report C was produced at 9:26 this morning, indicating the voting equipment has been reset to 0. Foster, indicating at the beginning of the testing, all the voting equipment to be used had 0 votes cast. Report B displays the results of using 6 ballots for the precinct, mail ballots, and early voting. The results on the report was compared to the manual report produced. The results on both documents were consistent, and the voting equipment was reset to 0. Report C was produced at 9:26 a.m. this morning, indicating the voting equipment has been reset to 0. This afternoon, I received a correspondence from the Secretary of State's office, who has a part in the LNA testing, and they confirmed that the ballot programming was correct. The Coventry, Cranston, and Foster Election Day voting equipment has been secured within the Board of Elections building and awaiting delivery prior to the special election to be held on Tuesday, October 3rd. The Coventry, Cranston, and Foster early voting equipment was delivered this morning by the BOE staff to the respective community in preparation of early voting commencing tomorrow morning at the opening of the respective city and town hall. And that concludes my report on the logic and accuracy testing for the voting machines to be used on October 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa, for that comprehensive report. Do we have any questions of the executive director? Hearing none, do we have a motion to certify the voting equipment?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Jack Boney, seconded by Vice Chair Scholes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous vote of the board. Item number 9, the board may vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246(5), subsection A4, and 1725(5), subsection A71I, to discuss and/or vote on possible violations of campaign finance laws in one campaign finance matter. Do we have a motion to go into executive session for that purpose?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote of the board. And item number 10, the board may vote to meet in executive session on a personnel matter pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246(5), subsection A1. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Scholes. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Bettenker to go into executive session for the purpose explained. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote. The board will go into executive session at 2:30 PM. At this time, we need a motion to resume open session and seal the minutes of the executive session.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. Jack Foney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous vote. Nothing to report.
There is one matter.
Oh, that's right, the first
Yep,
matter.
There is one matter to report out. On the matter of JCA Northup, Mr. Thornton provided a summary of his investigation and audit report into the campaign finance documentation for the period June 1, 2022 through March 31, 2023. He recommended the adoption of a consent order that he presented to the board. Board member DeSimone moved to approve the consent order as proposed, seconded by Vice Chair Scholes. All 6 board members who were present voted in favor of the motion, none opposed. The motion was adopted.
Thank you.
That is it.
Thank you. Hearing that, we have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Scholl,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Jack Boney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 4:06.